Welcome to Larry's Library. We are at the halfway point of 2025, so it's time to look back now and give you my top 10 favorite reads of 2025 so far. I had so much great stuff to choose from. I mean, I've read 78 books so far this year, and that is a combination of omnis, trades, single issue comic books. So it's a variety of things, and even some prose novels. So I had a lot of stuff to choose from, and so much of it was great that I am, for the first time in these, I don't think I've done it before, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to give 7 honorable mentions before I start the actual countdown. And these are not in any particular order, but here we go. The first one comes to mind that almost got into the top 10. It was so close. Is Hardcore Happiness, a graphic journey to find punk's positivity. And that is my son-in-law's latest book and his best book. And I'm talking about Reed Chancellor. And I'll put a link to his story review page down in the description. Because if you haven't read his stuff, you need to. I mean, he's just getting better and better. And this last one really knocked it out of the park. I also read, I guess technically a reread, because I first read it when I was very young, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Yeah, loved it. It almost made it into the top 10. Dandelion Wine, another prose novel that almost made it in. This is by the legendary Ray Bradbury. Dandelion Wine was loosely based on Ray Bradbury's childhood growing up in a small town in Illinois, and he's renamed that Greentown for his novels. So it's a fictionalized sort of version of the town he grew up in. And he set a bunch of different prose novels in that Greentown area. And it's a kind of a shared universe there. In fact, Something Wicked This Way Comes is part of that Greentown trilogy, some are calling it. And really, I think it's 4 books. I don't know where they're getting that. But they're not dependent on one another. You can read one without reading the other. Anyway, Something Wicked This Way Comes. It almost made it in there, too. You've probably seen the movie version, maybe. Jason Robards, I think, starred in that. Maybe? I could have that wrong. It's been a while. But yeah, much better book than the movie. And I like the movie, so there you go. Another Ray Bradbury prose novel I read this year that almost made it into the top 10 is The Martian Chronicles. And that was adapted to a TV series, I think, back in the 80s. And I don't remember much about it. I remember liking it as a little kid, but there was also 2 Jason Aaron omnibuses that almost made it into the top 10, but not quite. And that would be his Punisher omnibus. I like that quite a bit. Not quite enough to break the top 10, but close. Also, Thor by Jason Aaron, Volume 2 omnibus. I finally got to finish that. Loved it. Loved it a lot. Almost got in the top 10, but not quite. So I think that is 7. Yeah, I think that's my 7 honorable mentions that almost made it. And we'll get right into the countdown proper. At number 10, I have Space Ghost. Now, this is the latest Space Ghost comic book. I know there's been some other series before. This was the first time I'd ever read any Space Ghost comic. I mean, I'm familiar with the cartoon. Love that. But yeah, this is the new one by Dynamite, and it's written by David Pepose. If you know how to pronounce his last name, P-E-P-O-S-E, let me know down in the comments. I usually research them by looking for interviews on YouTube, and I forgot to do it before I shot this, so I don't know the proper pronunciation, but he wrote it, and it's great. My copy, as you can see in the scan here, is autographed on the cover by David Pepose. And Jewish Dragons secured that for me. He gifted me the book and got it autographed, so awesome. Thank you again, Jewish Dragons. But the art here is by Jonathan Lau. I don't think he did the cover. I'll look that up and I'll put I'll overlay that over this, let you know who the cover artist is here. Fantastic painted cover, love it. But yeah, I really enjoyed this a lot. It was unexpected, you know. I mean, I knew there was a comic. I didn't plan on getting it, but like I said, it got gifted to me. Man, it was a really, really good story. Good art throughout. Same artist throughout the whole thing, which, you know, I love consistent art. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun. At number 9, I have Judge Dredd Classics, The Dark Judges. Now, this is a nice hardcover collection. I think by, is it Dynamite? I don't have that in front of me, but probably, no. Dark Horse. This is probably Dark Horse. I'll note it over the, you know, in a little notation here too. But this is written by John Wagner and Alan Grant. The art, man, there's great art throughout this book. Brian Boland, Brett Ewings, Cliff Robinson, and Robin Smith. That's what I have in my notes here. Of course, my favorite of the thing is the Brian Boland stuff, but it's all pretty damn good. This was a gift from Super Laugh Hard. Yeah, so thanks Super Laugh Hard for this. It was better than I thought it would be, for sure. Loved it. At number 8, I have Drawing Blood Volume 1 Spilled Ink, trade paperback. This was written by Kevin Eastman. Yeah, that Kevin Eastman of Ninja Turtle fame. And also David Avalon. I think Kevin Eastman wrote the flashback sequences. Not sure how they divide that up, but fantastic. This is a masterpiece. The art in here is mostly by Ben Bishop. He carries the main portions. And then there are some flashback art that Kevin Eastman draws himself. So that was a really cool way to do this. Troy Little also does a couple sections, and Brittany Peer and Tommy Varga, T-O-M-I? I don't know. But yeah, all the credits are on the cover here, which is great to see that happen. And it does more and more in modern times. They credit everybody right there on the cover, as it should be. This was another gift from Jewish Dragons. So thanks again, Jewish Dragons. You sent me a lot of stuff that I probably would not have read otherwise. But man, I'm glad I did, because I love this. And mine is autographed by David Avalon inside front cover. Again, thanks to Jewish Dragons for getting that done. But yeah, this book is sort of semi-autobiographical, I guess you might say, but very, very fictionalized. I mean, there's just elements that happened probably to Kevin Eastman as he was writing the Turtles and drawing Ninja Turtles. But this is completely fictionalized. It's a different character. It's just loosely some stuff from his life, I think, trickled in there. But man, it is really good. This was like maybe a Quentin Tarantino film about comic book creators. If you can imagine how that would go. It's Drawing Blood. I love this so much. There's going to be another volume, at least one more, I think. And I'm hoping this gets collected in a giant hardcover one day. This is giant hardcover worthy, for sure. Yeah, and that is number 8. At number 7, I have one with a really long title. Let's see if I can get it out here. This is Flung Out of Space, inspired by the indecent adventures of Patricia Highsmith. So this is another one that is sort of semi-autobiographical. I'm sure this is more actual biography than the previous one, than Drawing Blood. This is written by Grace Ellis with some really good art by Hannah Templer. I'm not sure how to describe this one because it works on so many levels, it's ridiculous. I got this from my daughter, and I gotta say, the hype is real. If you've seen her review of it, and some others have looked at this before, and I think there's probably some videos of it on YouTube. Yeah, this is a fictionalized story, fictionalized account of American writer Patricia Highsmith's life. She was probably most famous for her first novel, the psychological thriller Strangers on a Train, which, of course, Alfred Hitchcock famously adapted into film. She also wrote The Talented Mr. Ripley, and, of course, The Price of Salt. She also wrote comic books, but she never really liked the medium. She never respected the medium. She just did it for money. You know, I don't think she ever... I mean, the way it's depicted here, she never really liked it at all. And it was something she had to escape from, you know. Of course, you know, they say Stan Lee was embarrassed about the medium when he was writing comic books at the very beginning. He never told anyone he wrote comics. He told them he was a writer, that he wrote short stories. You know, he danced around the thing. And I think she had a similar disdain. And there's a whole segment in this where she actually kind of has a date with Stanley. I almost shouldn't give that away because it's so unexpected and wild if you don't know the story ahead of time. She was a gay woman living in a time when homosexuality was treated as a mental illness. So that is really examined here. She was not a great person. She was a racist. She was complicated, that's for sure. But this is an engrossing graphic novel. You will not be able to stop reading it. You'll probably read it in one sitting or maybe two at the most, because you're going to want to know what happens. It is wild. And I think it's an important work too. But could not believe how good this was. I mean, I was told, but you know, I don't always believe it when people tell me something's great, you know. Sometimes you just got to experience it, and this is an experience. That's why it's number 7 in my top 10 favorite reads of 2025 so far here at the halfway point. At number 6, I have another gift from Jewish Dragons, also autographed by the writer Matthew Rosenberg. And I'm talking about We're Taking Everyone Down With Us, issue 1. It's a single issue comic, and I think it's going to be 4 or 6 issues in total. Not sure. I plan on getting a hardcover of this if it happens. If it don't, I don't know. I may have to get the singles because I'm really not a trade guy. I mean, some things are only available in trade. So, sometimes I got to eat those words. But yeah, this is written by Matthew Rosenberg. Art is by Stefano Landini, I believe. And yeah, it's fantastic. The plot, it's very plot driven, although there's some great characters here too. You meet this little girl, and you meet some robots that are her guards. And I'm not going to give anything else away. It's really, really fun. This is a genre crossing type of deal. You've got these thriller, sci-fi, espionage type plot lines, but then you have this little girl struggling to be with her dad, and it's magnificent. You should read this. Right in the middle of the countdown at number 5, I have Farewell Summer, prose novel by Ray Bradbury. I did a real Ray Bradbury binge here the last few months, and this one is a sequel to Dandelion Wine, and it was written some 55 odd years after he wrote Dandelion Wine. This was fabulous. It's not near as sad as the first book was. It's more hopeful. But I got to tell you, nothing will prepare you for the ending of this book, okay? But if you like Bradbury and you like when he writes about Greentown, the fictionalized version of his Illinois hometown, pick this up. Ray Bradbury was and is the master. At number 4, I have A Distant Neighborhood. Now, this is manga, a manga graphic novel, making it to number 4 in my top 10 reads so far of 2025. How does that happen? Well, this was a gift from my daughter, Kristen. Written and drawn by Jiro Taniguchi, I believe is how you pronounce it. Hopefully I got that right. But this is very much reminds me of some of the best Twilight Zone episodes, which there are so many. But this character, the main character, he travels back in time inadvertently. He doesn't mean to, and he doesn't know how it happened. It's never really explained, but it's not important. What's important is this plot and this character that develops throughout it. As he goes back in time, he relives a lot of stuff from his childhood. He gets to take and do high school all over again. He gets to make decisions differently if he chooses that could possibly change his future. And so what does he do? I'm not going to tell you, but you got to read it. This is kind of heartbreaking, and it's bittersweet, and I loved it. Artwork is fabulous also. Number 3, I have Philadelphia, the deluxe hardcover, volume 1. Now, I had heard of Philadelphia. I didn't know much about it. I knew it had something to do with vampires, but that's kind of all I knew about it. But this was another gift from Jewish Dragons. Let me just grab my copy of this one. It's fantastic. This is Philadelphia. And my copy is autographed. Check that out. By the writer, Rodney Barnes. Jewish Dragon. Man, he gave me an awesome box of stuff. And most of it was autographed, including this one. So this is like the first 13 issues, I believe, of the series. And what I understand, this was never finished, unfortunately. But this book by itself holds up really well because I haven't read any of the other stuff. This is the first 13. And it's about this vampire invasion of Philadelphia. And man, it is good. It combines so many things that I love. You got the horror element. You got lots of lores explored. Heaven and hell, that whole thing. Vampires. Some great main characters that are just wonderful. Some crazy little cameos by, I'm not going to say who because it'll ruin it. More of a Easter eggs than cameos. I guess you'd call it both. But man, this book is fantastic. If you like vampire stories, if you like modern day horror, this is it. Yeah, it's really, really fun time. Love this so much. It could have easily been number 1 probably, but as it is, it's number 3. I didn't even give the rest of the credits. I'm so excited about this one. But the art is by Jason Sean Alexander. Don't think I've seen his art before. Really good. There's a section that Bill Sienkiewicz inks him, which was really a treat. But it's great throughout. Great, great story. Check out Philadelphia if you haven't already. I understand there's one more hardcover that's been published like this. I'm going to get that for sure. And sadly, the last few issues have never been collected. But I don't think they have a lot to do with the first two books. So I think it's an okay recommendation, just the two books. Certainly the first one that I've read, I can vouch for. Yeah, so that is why this is number 3 on my countdown. So happy to have this autographed copy too. Number 2, I have Ready Player One, the prose novel. Now, I have not seen the Spielberg movie that adapted this. I'm assuming it's great. I do need to see that now, to compare it. But this is by Ernest Cline. This was a gift from my daughter, Kristen, again. And, man, it's awesome. This is a love letter to 80s geekdom, really. I mean, there are so many things in this book that I knew about, or that I knew a little bit about. Some I knew a lot about, and I could quote it along with the author. But this is set in a sort of near-dystopian sci-fi future, but where one of the most popular figures in this time, the time setting of the book, he was obsessed with the 80s and his childhood in the 80s. So you've got all of these game references from the 80s, comic book references, movie references, music, all manner of pop culture from the 80s are explored within this sci-fi story, this thriller, and it's really good. If you're a gamer or even a casual gamer, if you've ever been a gamer in your life and you were passionate about that kind of thing, you gotta read Ready Player One. And even if you weren't a gamer, if you were just kind of touched on that area, through comic books and movies and all that, you're still going to love this. This was fabulous. Loved it so much. In fact, I'm reading the sequel. I'm almost finished with the sequel, Ready Player 2. But yeah, Ready Player One, absolutely. It could have been my number 1 probably, but as it is right now, it's my second favorite read of 2025 at the halfway point. Well, what's number 1? This book was a gift from Reed Chancellor, my son-in-law. And I tell you, I went into it with low expectations to read this. This is Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, written and drawn by Tom Scioli, I believe is the pronunciation. Yeah, as I said, I went into this not expecting much. I really didn't. Because, I'm a huge Jack Kirby fan. And have been, most of my life. So I felt like I knew everything really there was to know about Jack the King Kirby. I've read all kinds of stories over the years, articles, videos, books, even comic books touched on it. So I thought I knew a lot about his life. And man, I was shocked how much I didn't know and how much I learned in this book. Tom Scioli has just, he's poured all of that stuff I did know and then brought in all this stuff I didn't know and put it together as this awesome narration of the man's life, especially his life in relation to comic books and his art and his struggles. And it's fantastic. I learned some stuff about Kirby here I didn't know, and it was just beautifully drawn, beautiful storytelling. Tom Scioli's great. Who knew? I know a lot of people did, but I wasn't convinced, and yeah, I'm convinced now, I gotta say. If you have an interest in Jack Kirby at all, if you have an interest in comic book history, comic book art history specifically, you're going to want to read this. If you're a Kirby fanatic like I have been most of my life, you're going to want to read it. This is a great one. It really is. And so far in 2025, this is my favorite read. And I read a lot of great stuff. And like I said, and just the order of this could shift around at different times. And I tried to really remember how I felt a book that I read weeks ago or months ago when I put this together, because there's a thing called recency bias you can have where you tend to favor something that's closer in your memory than something that was farther away. It's a whole psychological thing. And I tried to avoid that here by looking back at what I said or tried to remember what I thought when I read all of these books, even though I only read a few of them in the last few weeks. So it's hard. The struggle's real, but what a nice struggle to have deciding what you like the best, Anyway, I hope you enjoyed taking a look at this top 10. And let me know what your top 10 reads are, or just your top 5, whatever you want to post down in the comments. I'll take a look at it, of what you've read so far in 2025. I'm a little bit ahead of schedule. I'm trying to read at least 150 books. Follow me on Goodreads if you want to watch my progress. I'm actually about 6 or 7 ahead now. which is odd because I was behind, 2 months ago. Now I'm ahead. So check that out if you want, and thanks for watching. See you next time.